like to go tiny. Oh, I could see in retirement, I could see us doing that. I'd love to travel around and do that. But the problem for us was
Wait 10 seconds.
we're raising 4 children.
Got Jazz here, Brandon behind the camera.
The way they should go to teach them.
Bougie bus is possible. Kids,
so
guys, and adults.
To do this and on the process of that, we were getting rid of what can be really hard and stressful and painful. And as a child, for those who have children, they might have tons of stuffed animals. I can't give away fluffy pants, you know? And so getting your kids to the spot where they understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and they see a solution. I'm not so sure I like this anymore, but overall, we're teaching their heart hold on having stuff and what that means for them. And a small house recently, and we have a neighbor, and he is an awesome guy, but he has a problem with hoarding. And so, you know, sometimes God puts the right thing at the right time, and the girls wanted to watch something. Well, I don't want them to watch something all day, and if they are going to watch something, I'd rather it be something they can learn something from. So we turned on during breakfast really quick to watch something, and the first thing I saw, we almost never watch episodes like on Amazon Prime or Netflix or anything of a season of TV, but they saw Hoarders and they're like, what's that? And I said, well, it's a show called Hoarders. And they said, well, what's a hoarder? So I told them about it. I looked at all the episodes. I just picked one. We watched it, and this half-an-hour episode turned into like an hour-and-a-half episode because we had to keep pausing it. They had so many questions. So they got these questions answered. You know, why would somebody have all that stuff? And, you know, and we talked about how stuff can control you, and you know, who's in control? Is it the stuff? If you're talking about the safety of your stuff constantly, whatever, we like the phrase, whatever you feed will lead. So if I am buying all this stuff constantly and it turns into this problem, then it's controlling me, I'm not controlling it, and we walked through all this. Well, it just so happens that 2 days later, we were walking around and talking to some neighbors, and we saw this neighbor for the first time. We didn't know he was a hoarder at that time. And he invited us into his house. And you know, my 6-year-old still has that mouth that just goes, and you're like, stop. And so she's like, why does he have so much stuff in here? And like, shh, shh, shh. You know, tried to quiet her up. And I was like, we'll talk about it at home. Well, like that. And they process this, you know, and so they start to understand, well, why does he have that stuff? And, you know, so we can talk about it and just be really real and authentic about it, and they're learning from that. And so the really cool thing is I had to go to the bathroom during that hour and a half because it was really long. So I went into the bathroom and the light bulb went off, and I said, I've got this bin of nail polish that's, some of it's like 10 years old, and I need to get rid of some of it, and it's a small little learning tool. So I brought it back out with me, and they're like, oh, we're gonna do our nails, and I'm like, no, not yet, but let's finish this up really quick. So we finished the episode, and they're like, what are we gonna do? And I said, I have a lot of nail polish in here, don't I? And they said, yeah. And I said, let's go through it and sort it. If it's really old and it's not gonna stay, so we have a ton of these ones that the girls love, but they come off their nails like within a day. So I'm like, you know, this comes off your nails in a day, doesn't it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, what do you think about that? And they're like, we should get rid of it. And I'm like, that's a great idea. Let's put that in this pile right here. You know, which ones are really good, and what should we keep? Oh, these ones are good. Okay, let's sort these. And then it just turned into this great conversation and opportunity to speak into what they believe. You know, I think, wouldn't it be cool? And so just asking them questions, letting them come to it. So they had a best idea. They have a lot of stuffed animals, and it's been bothering me, but I don't touch it. We let our kids, when we went tiny, we let them keep Legos because it's creative, dress-up clothes because it's creative, and one bin of dolls, miscellaneous dolls, like small dolls, Barbies, and those little clippy ones, and we that's what they basically had, you know? And so we broke it down to certain items, and for me it has a purpose. It's not just picking random items. We had them not be at the house during the garage sale we had when we went tiny, because of those emotional ties, and it's hard to teach a 2-year-old about that. So we do it at an age-appropriate level. But after watching this and this nail polish exercise, they're like, we have a lot of stuffed animals downstairs. And I'm like, you're right, you do. What should we do about that? And they're like, hey, remember that Christmas when we went through our stuff and we gave toys to people that didn't have toys? We could do that. And I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. And you know what? In Omaha, we have the Lydia House, and it's for moms, single moms with kids, and they can go there and get stuff they need. Wouldn't it be really cool to give it to them? And then they got so excited about it, and so they were like, can we do it? Can we do it right now? And I'm like, yes, we can! Win! You know, and so it's really fun to have these conversations and just kind of probe them and see what they think and guide and direct them. It's a scary responsibility, but as a parent, that's how it is. And so I want to raise children that I want to have them as my best friend as they grow up and they're older and they turn into adults, not people that I don't want to be around. And so I'm training them very hard every day, but at an age-appropriate level. So we, long story short, with our tiny house, our build went $20,000 over. We had an off-grid home. We had to trench our solar lines. We got a cistern and we got a pump. We had spring-fed well water, so we were pumping that up into our house, and it was brilliant. The kids loved to play out there and whatnot, but the problem is we snagged a zoning issue, and 6 weeks after being full-time in there, we'd gone out weekends and stuff like that before, but 6 weeks after being full-time, we had to leave, and within the 3 weeks, 3 weeks from the day we left, we had one of our car's transmissions go. And we were like, oh, this is a bad issue. And then the day we had to leave, we barely made it where we were going, and our other car's transmission blew. So now we just had to leave our dream home that we built, our tiny houses, and we have no cars. And it's 2 weeks before Christmas, and we can't afford to buy our kids any Christmas presents. And what are we gonna do? How are we gonna make it special? Oh, we have these movie experiential date, and some movie they all loved came out, so we're gonna show up with some stuff for our kids. And people, like, God came through in amazing ways through other people, and so that was really cool. And our kids got to experience the generosity that they were starting to understand and give back to. And so there were a lot of things like that, but that led to a whole to the next as we figured out how are we going to find it. We're still kind of homeless. You know, when at the, like I said, age appropriate level, we try to buffer that. You know, at Christmas I said, hey, guess what? We're going to so-and-so's house, and we're gonna go there, and they have all those dogs that you love, and let's bring our sleeping bags and make it like a big camping trip, and they're just getting all excited, and they're like, that's so cool, I love my sleeping bag. And you know, they had a tree there for the girls to decorate when they got there, and it was fine. But each step of the way for an entire year, we were in some ways very homeless. We had to keep adjusting, and we learned things that we took for granted. We learned how to love people better. We learned, I can't even tell you, like, we are changed people through that experience. And our kids, I mean, we buffered, but we talked about it. But they're smart. They see it. They feel your feelings. They experience some of that, no matter how much you try to shield or guard them from some of it. And that's good. That's good, because they're learning. Not everything's easy. It's hard work, and you know, they're learning how to fail forward because they see their parents struggling with how are we going to do it. Not in a way that's inappropriate. You know, we have these conversations outside, but they still sense this, right? So that's kind of the short version of what happened to us in our tiny house. We lived in what we called the meadow. It was 40 acres out in the country. It was gorgeous. The kids would put their dress-up clothes on. But what's really cool is we saw their values change too. For example, the only TV we have is, I don't know how many inches. It's pretty small. And so we put it in our son's loft so he could play some video games here and there, because he liked to do that, and I don't love that, but he does. And so we put that as an option, but he didn't even want to play it anymore. All he wanted to do is be outside and build forts and learn how to trap and just be a boy out in the country. And it was amazing to see how that all came about. And not only that, the girls, they elevated their dress up and their play to wearing these princess costumes and all this stuff. Mermaid, Ariel has legs in there somewhere. They're running up dirt piles and down and into the woods and into this fort they're making, all dressed up, and they're all getting along so well. And so I've heard a lot of people say, you know, they're not bad excuses, they're hurdles. They're not, I mean, you can use it as an excuse. I call it a hurdle, something to solve and figure out. And they say, okay, well, we can't go tiny with kids because they're going to suffer, or, you know, this is going to be really hard for them, and they're going to fight all the time in this small space. But I kid you not, from experience, my children got along better. My son was more gentle and kind with his sisters and understanding. They all four of them, even the little one, wanted to participate in building this fort in the inside of a cedar tree, and they each had their own little room that they carved out and were making plans, and they were having a blast in more relational ways than they ever got at home in this really big house. And not only our kids, but our marriage, it's the same thing, you know. For us, going tiny was the opposite of what I think the general public would think would happen. Our family, instead of watching TV or a movie at night, our family came up with creative ideas. One of my favorite ones is it was dark and we see all the stars, and I had to go pick something up at the dollar store, and I saw these, my kids love Star Wars, and I saw these light up, what is it called? Somebody help me out. What? Lightsaber, that's what it is. So I saw these light up lightsabers, and I thought, you know, for my family to go to a movie, that's probably about 45 bucks. And I can buy 6 of these lightsabers, and if they trash them, so what? So I was like, this is the best family date idea ever. And so I bought 6 of them, and once it was, we would eat by the fire every night and eat outside, and it was beautiful. And so we all put these lightsabers on. And in this little apple orchard that was growing, we're like, game on! And we tore those things up and had such a blast and made some memories that they're not going to forget. And it's because we were away from all the distractions and the stuff that we normally lived with that we got creative and thought about different things. The girls would take their tea parties out into this meadow and their dolls, and I didn't tell them to do that. They just did it, and they had a blast. I mean, the things that we did, and we got creative. We started our relationships. We were talking more. We were working together. We were solving problems together. We were digging into each other's hearts better because we didn't have all the distractions of everything else, and because we were slowly taking this journey deeper and deeper with our children into, well, you know, what do you value? So, I mean, I know a lot of people do, like, Operation Christmas Child at Christmas, and that's fun to do with our kids too. There's no right or wrong way for any family, but for Darren and I, these are our 4 children, and so no matter how anybody chooses to do their life, we are responsible for them. And so yeah, we started to see what the world values. You know, what if you watch TV, all the commercials, what are they pushing into your kids, or the media, all this stuff. And I mean, not in a crazy way, but there's world values, and then there's our values, and our values don't match the rest of the world's values a lot. We understand this, we're okay with that, we choose this. So we had to kind of look at that and say, what are we going to teach our kids? Are we going to teach them that more is better? At the same time, we're going to teach them that less is better. Right or wrong, we want to teach them, why are you doing what you're doing? have you thought about what's that going to lead to? Is that, we tell our kids, I would be a broken record, when I tell them, you're going to make choices every moment of every day. And every choice has a consequence, good or bad. And so are you going to make a good choice with a good consequence or a bad choice with a bad consequence? And so we're teaching them this in the value of what they do with their time, how they treat people, what they have with their stuff. And teaching them to live them. And so on that is it really is made this fun is when we had to do a wisdom speech a few months ago. And the answers,
that was super awesome. A lot to learn about that. Living tiny with children. Thank you, Melody. And we'll see you guys again for a tiny house tour later.